So, welcome back after the lunch break. Usually it's always bad to be the last moderator before the lunch break, because then you are between the people and the lunch, but it's also bad after the lunch, because then the lunch is between the session and yourself, or between your the really nice sessions which we have today. We are now having our peering session, which is basically also a very important part, as we have a network operators group meeting and peering event. And peering is about bringing people together, so we will also have a panel. But before we start with that, I would like to ask Bernd Spiess on the stage to talk a little bit about his findings about doing peering management for the last 10 years in that region.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks again, MENOG Program Committee, for having me with this presentation. My name is Bernd. This presentation is about peering in the region, so 10 years of peering. Why 10 years? Because I'm personally in this region for 10 years, so peering is of course a bit older in this region, but 10 years is my presence here in this region taking care of peering. So that explains the topic here. So where are we today when we compare how was the progress in 10 years? So 10 years ago, in 2013, I gave my first presentation. I started working for CIX. I had a presentation in Dubai, and this left slide here was one of my first slides ever doing for CIX and in this region. And the question was, there is not much peering in the region. So there was the Bahrain Internet Exchange, and UAE already started. And I thought, well, this will be a long way to go to improve things here. And as you can see, and you know yourself, 10 years later, it is amazing. So it really did a lot of progress. You see so many points now on the right-sided map, whereby 10 years ago this was quite empty. So having a look on the CIX in this region especially, I think this is an interesting matrix for all those who are looking at these numbers. Let me grab some highlights maybe on that. You see, I checked the three categories which are typically interesting to look at. So let's start maybe with the connected bandwidth. So you see one very interesting one, which is the Tehran Internet Exchange, which I had to make an exception because the data is all taken from PeeringDB, and the rule is if it's not in PeeringDB, it doesn't exist. With Tehran CIX, I had to make an exception and really pull that from the homepage, because the PeeringDB data absolutely did not make any sense. And to not miss this important element here, the exception was to have a look at the homepage in that case here. So as you can see, it is an amazing 8.4 terabit connected capacity there. The other numbers here, UAE has a connected capacity of 2.3 tera. The CIX is with 1.4 tera, Manama CIX with 1 tera. And one correction I found, the Saudi Arabia Internet Exchange, as you can see, 10 gig are missing. I found them today, so there was one more peer in the today's list, and it did show exactly 1,000 now, so that's the verbal correction here. So that's the mentioning of the connected bandwidth. Then we have the peak traffic, which is also very helpful to look at. Tehran CIX is once again special. I will come to that in one following up slide here. It's a fantastic peak, but I have a graph here to show as well. Then second, Manama X, really doing a fantastic job, so congrats to Manama X team, Telco and AMSIX for doing that. UAE X is close to 400. JEDX, operated by Links, also doing a fantastic job here. So you see the numbers yourself. Also important to mention the local ones, not to forget there is the Kuwait IX and Djibouti IX nearby this region. And the others, as you can see, if it's not published on the homepage, or maybe I did not found it, then I apologize it, but please make sure to show peak traffic graphs for our community for this industry. And last here, the number of peers. So the UAE shows 82. Not sure about the Egypt one, Pyramix. I don't have on my personal radar, but PeeringDB tells me 30 ASN here. Smarter Bikes by Etisalat showing 29. JEDX, where's JEDX 19, Manama X 23. So these are just some numbers. You can compile it yourself, what is more important for your analysis, but as you can see, it is really a super nice progress when you compare this with the landscape 10 years ago. So when comparing things, of course we have some traffic graphs. As you can imagine, traffic grows a lot. In that case, UAE, so around about 9 years ago, I found this screenshot from another presentation where we had a lot of positive vibes, having 15, 16 gigabit. Today we are looking, as already mentioned, at 400 at UAE and even larger numbers at some others. This here is really a special, because in Tehran IX I recorded a peak traffic of 3.5 in my preparation 2 weeks ago. When I looked yesterday, I was surprised because it quite doubled in the last week. So I'm not sure about the reasons here. I really hope it is FIFA World Cup producing this result. Not sure, maybe somebody has more insight what did cause this amazing jump here, but 7 tera of traffic is quite remarkable. One more thing to check is where are the players with the 100 gig connect. 100 gig connects are typically somehow a sign of a mature setup or of an acceptance of these IXs from the industry, because very often it starts with 2 times 10 and then they say, let's see how this develops, and if you really make a progress, then the operators come with the 100 gig connect. So as you can see, we find 6 locations with 100 G customers. So Egypt IX, operated by AMSIX, already shows 2 customers with 2 times 100, so CDN 77 and Facebook. At JEDX we find STC with 6 times 100, Medianova, and 4 others with 100 G each. Riyadh CIX shows 6 networks with 100 G each. You find a lot of cloud-related names here, so I hope you can somehow read it, or otherwise you find the names in the presentation archive. Manama X shows a special situation, so you see AWS 4 times 100 and mobile is 3 times 100. I'm not sure if somebody is missing here, because I'm trying to understand the peak numbers. So, but as said, if it's not in PeeringDB, then please fix that. We want to see who is really using how much bandwidth. Oman showing Facebook Meta with 2x100, and Dubai showing 4 guys with 2x100. This is Do, one of the 2 incumbents in UAE, and Microsoft, Google, and AWS, plus some others with 100. Another interesting view, and also showing a bit a mature market situation, where are the cloud operators, the big ones, the hyperscalers. I'm sorry when just looking at these typical 3-4 names and not include everyone here in my research. So you see Oracle in Jeddah, and most of the others are using their capacities or presence in either Bahrain, which is AWS, Microsoft is in Qatar, Oracle in Abu Dhabi, and 4 others, including Ali Cloud, are in Dubai. Then coming a bit to some numbers comparison, because that's also interesting to look at. So in 2014, when looking at the root servers presence, we found 4 specific ones, which ones are not that super interesting. But 10 years later, you see a long list of now 8 of the 13 DNS root servers are now present in this Middle East region, and a massive more number of those are distributed. This map picture is a bit misleading because it summarizes the number of servers. So the right one is a big improvement. One more topic is a bit latency comparison, because I did a lot of tests and measurements 10 years ago. So in 2013, when having a look at this probe ID 2243, so I'm always talking about RIPE Atlas measurement system here when talking about probes, and this probe did show at that time a 0 reach of anyone below 10 milliseconds. So this probe was pinging the root DNS servers, the 13 ones, and checking this again 10 years later in 22, you see a lot of root DNS servers show up with 1 millisecond, like the D root and the E root. These are typically coming with an PCH setup. K root is operated from RIPE. The H root, I root from NetNode, showing all a fantastic low latency. And even the others, which are not super locally, they also show a huge improvement, because the left picture goes up to 300 milliseconds RTT, whereby the maximum, which is the C root operated from Cogent, is at 130, which is still fine compared to 10 years ago. Another testing measurement I did in 2013 was just a ping test to content. When you just do a ping to famous websites like Apple, BMW, Audi, whatever comes in your mind. In 2013, you see most of the latency show really an awful picture of 200, 300, 400, 500 milliseconds just for the ping to the web server. Trying to compare these 10 years later, it's not the same result page, because not everybody likes to be pinged anymore. But anyway, you see in some examples, which are the same ones as 10 years ago, we have 3 examples now showing up with 1 millisecond, with 3 milliseconds, and 2 more with 130. So this is really a big improvement on latencies here as well. So how does it look like if you do a BGP peering session and you turn it on? If it's an important destination, you're always a bit excited by doing the no-shot of the done peering session, and then you compare the picture before and the picture afterwards. So you see here 2 examples from one customer setup at UAE using a peering bridge of SmartHub X, and the 2 examples, this one and the next one, are showing the latency to Pakistan and Afghanistan. And as you can see, jumping back, this here is UAE to Pakistan, improved from around 90 milliseconds to around 20 milliseconds by just the turn up of the peering and making the shortcut, or Afghanistan improved also a lot from 100 to below 50. So this is the power of peering. This is what your peering engineers, network engineers are doing day by day and making the internet better. Another really special case I was lucky to catch was the work of PCH. We have some PCH colleagues here. So they are doing a fantastic job by putting DNS top level domain anycast copies all over the world. And one of them is in Dubai, and I had this opportunity to catch the latency just to 3 random examples. So country DNS zone servers. In that case, it was Angola, Afghanistan, and a third one. I cannot read this from here, but I just took the top 3 to just have a start. And the latency from Dubai in 3 measured example was originally 100 milliseconds minimum, up to 200 milliseconds reality. So this means the systems were answering somewhere in Europe or in Singapore at that point in time. And after turning up the peering of PCH, these jumped down to 1 millisecond, 2 milliseconds. And these are just 3 top-level domain systems out of a list of more than 100. Famous others are, for example, Canada, and even UAE itself is part of that set. So this really is a massive improvement of latencies in a DNS system, which is really a fundament of all our internet doing. One more personal IXP highlight, because as you have heard, I have something to do with UAE. So in UAE, there was the initiative of the regulator to motivate both operators to link their 2 internet exchanges to each other, because the internet exchange itself, without interconnects to other regions, to other neighbor countries, is just worth half of it. So we all know the power of mature market is that you can connect to your neighbor countries as well. And this is one nice example that things are moving, that operators are getting the idea, that governments get the idea, regulators get the idea that it is about interconnect. And at the end of my presentation, there is still a lot more to improve, maybe for the next 10 years, that we can find each other here and look back at 20 years of peering doing. So what is to be improved? Of course, IRR and RPKI needs to be improved, because the peering environment, same as transit, will cut away your prefixes, will remove the shortcut. If you don't have proper IRR, then things go nowhere. I even read a warning from Google, for example, and Google warned their peers, if you don't care about proper IRR and RPKI config, it might be that you will have no connectivity to Google. So I think this is now really getting serious. If you don't have your IRR and RPKI data in a good shape, then expect problems. One important mentioning here on IRR is also the discussion, which you can follow in the RIPE discussion groups. There is a big discussion about authoritative IRR data. So if you work with IRR, sometimes this is done as fire and forget. A lot of crap is jumping around in IRR databases, so it is also a duty to have sanitization processes running to take care of that. But there are a lot of talks on that topic, so Hannah from MENOG will have a session tomorrow. We had today already 2 sessions from Nina and Judd, and the ROA signing party is also important if you want to get in touch with that, so feel free to join that. Another thing, more specific route in this region is a very often used method to balance IP transit traffic. And in many cases, the more specific doing is just taking place on transit and not on peering. So if your organization is doing that, please maybe think about these effects, that you really put a magnet on your transit links, you avoid peering links functionality if you play with more specifics on the transit side but not on the peering side. This is a very common practice here in Middle East. Another thing is a budget or a price topic. The big bandwidths are still much cheaper, or was always cheaper, to be put to Marseille and to Singapore than to your neighbor country and pick up the friendly content which is already there. So there needs to be things improved on that side. Missing peerings, if you use peering, you should work on peering session management. That's clear. Interconnectivity between IXPs and markets, I already mentioned. Still working on regionalize content, so the place is set, so please work on that, bring back your own content back to this region. And the last thing, RIPE Atlas probe, that is really important. May I ask you to give me a hand? Who of you is a RIPE ambassador or a fan of RIPE Atlas systems and can help somebody with explanation and doing? Please give you a hand which is helpful with RIPE Atlas probe doing. Some more hands? Where are the RIPE fans? Yeah. So if you see your neighbors raising the hand and you have not raised your hand, maybe you want to speak with this friendly neighbor that we have more probes to measure. And that's it. Thank you very much.
So if you have any questions, please come to the microphone.
Again?
Thank you. So in your presentation, you have shown us two slides about latency to Pakistan and latency to Afghanistan, that it was reduced in Smart Hub Exchange, and I think the previous one was UAE. So this test was the traffic via, because we are peering in both exchanges. So this traffic was via the direct peering between the way you're testing to the last mile provider on the other side, who's also peering in the exchange, or it could have well been through the root servers, because it's not necessarily that every pair can pair with other pair. They can learn the prefixes via the root servers, and then the data plane can take the path.
Yeah.
So if you can highlight how this test was conducted.
Yes. Thank you for the question. In that case, it was not a root server peering, so it needed a direct session to be done. And the point of view is from an operator who were asking for a peering session with the Afghanistan network, with the Pakistan network, and to produce this picture, the measurement was taken in place. So by finding one answering system or one answering RIPE probe or a web server or a DNS server, and catch the picture before the peering and after the peering. So that's the outcome then.
Why I highlighted this part was because even it's not just about the BGP pairing, but also the underlying technology going to the layer 1 part. Because if the layer 1 connectivity is there and it's not taking the longer path, then that also affects the latency. So it means that the groundwork, which is the layer 1, could be submarine cabling, that is in place. And this result could well be replicated by a route server as well, that if the provider on the other end is addressing the prefixes to the route server and I'm trying to ping to the last mile device, I could get the same benefit that I'm seeing over here with direct pairing. It's totally possible with an exchange.
Yeah, I think my comment on that would be, look at the end, layer 1 doesn't help you anything if you don't build a network up to layer 3. Even a layer 2 doesn't help you. I can tell you in my home area in Carinthia, in Austria, we have a lot of fibers running through Carinthia. We have a lot of layer 2 running through Carinthia. We don't have a layer 3 exit. So all the nice fiber doesn't help you anything because the latency will be the same as you don't have anything. So you really need to plan layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, make it proper on all these layers, and then you will have a chance to grow your digital hub. Thank you.